On November 29, 1970, the body of a woman was discovered in Isdalen Valley, near the city of Bergen in Norway. The location was remote, a rocky area surrounded by forest, known locally as Death Valley. It was not a place people visited casually. The woman had been partially burned. Her body lay among stones, with clear signs of fire damage. Nearby, investigators found personal items arranged around the scene: empty pill bottles, a burned passport cover, a lighter, and remnants of clothing. At first glance, the scene suggested suicide, but several details immediately complicated that assumption. The woman had no identification, no passport, no wallet, no papers confirming her name. Any labels on her clothing had been removed, carefully, not torn. This was noted early and considered unusual. Her clothes were not suited for hiking. She wore rubber boots, a fur hat, and fashionable clothing. This attire did not match the terrain, nor the season. The valley was cold and difficult to access. The mismatch raised questions. An autopsy was conducted shortly afterward. The cause of death was recorded as a combination of carbon monoxide poisoning and ingestion of barbiturates. However, the quantity of pills in her system was inconsistent. It was unclear whether they had been taken voluntarily or administered by someone else. Her face was unrecognizable due to fire damage. Dental records could not immediately identify her. No missing persons matched her description. She was estimated to be between 30 and 40 years old, well-groomed, with signs of careful personal maintenance. This was not someone living on the margins. Investigators examined the surrounding area more closely. Footprints were present, but weather conditions made them difficult to interpret. No clear signs of a struggle were found. No witnesses reported seeing the woman enter the valley. No one reported seeing her leave. The case initially received limited attention. Norway at the time was not accustomed to unexplained deaths of foreign individuals. But soon, details began to accumulate, and the case shifted from unusual to deeply suspicious. Police traced her movements backwards. Hotel records, train tickets, and witness statements slowly emerged. Each one added fragments, but no clear identity. What became evident was that the woman had traveled extensively. She had stayed in multiple hotels across Norway, always alone, always well-dressed, and always under different names. This pattern did not match tourism, nor casual travel. It suggested intention and planning. By the end of the first phase of the investigation, authorities faced the same fundamental problem. They had a body, a location, and a manner of death, but no confirmed identity and no clear explanation. The woman was buried in an unmarked grave. At the time, no one knew her name, and no one could explain why she had been in Isdalen Valley or why she had died there. The case became known simply as the Isdal woman. After the discovery of the body, police began reconstructing the woman's possessions, what she carried, and what she deliberately did not. 2 suitcases were soon located. They had been left behind at the Bergen railway station. Both were stored in lockers and collected only after investigators began searching. Inside, police found clothing, cosmetics, wigs, and personal items, but no identification. As with the body, every label had been removed, from dresses, from coats, from shoes. Even laundry tags were missing. The removals were precise. This was not casual behavior. It was systematic. The clothing itself was fashionable, well-made, expensive, and carefully maintained. The woman had traveled with multiple outfits, different styles, different appearances. This suggested intent to change how she was perceived. Several wigs were found, different colors, different lengths. They appeared lightly used, not theatrical, but practical, designed to alter appearance quickly. Cosmetics were minimal, but neatly organized. Nothing excessive, nothing random. Every item seemed selected, not accumulated. Police also discovered a notebook. Inside were cryptic notes, short lines, letters, and numbers. At first glance, they appeared meaningless, but investigators soon realized they matched travel movements. The notes corresponded to dates, hotel stays, and locations. They were not diary entries. They were records, concise, functional, coded. Hotel staff across Norway were contacted. Many remembered the woman. She stood out. She spoke several languages, with no consistent accent. Sometimes French, sometimes German, sometimes English. Her speech patterns shifted. She always paid in cash. She declined conversation. She asked specific questions about train schedules, and she requested rooms with balconies. This detail was recorded repeatedly. Witnesses described her as polite, reserved, and distant. She avoided personal questions. She never received visitors, and she often checked out abruptly. In some hotels, staff noticed a smell of chemicals. In others, they recalled her boiling water repeatedly. These details were not understood at the time, but they were documented. Investigators also found multiple pairs of sunglasses, different shapes, different styles, again, suggesting concealment or transformation. No photographs of family were found, no letters, no personal messages, nothing that suggested emotional attachment. Everything pointed to movement and purpose. The objects did not reveal her name, but they revealed behavior, organized, deliberate, and controlled. At this point, police no longer viewed the death as a simple suicide. Too many actions suggested preparation. Too many precautions suggested secrecy. The woman had moved through the country, leaving traces, but no identity. She had planned her travel, but erased herself from it. The objects told a story, but not the one investigators expected. They suggested a person who wanted to be unseen, yet moved constantly. Someone who avoided permanence, yet left precise records. By the end of this phase, authorities faced a troubling conclusion. The woman had not simply wandered into Istulin Valley. She had arrived there intentionally, with preparation, and with knowledge. But knowledge of what remained unclear. As investigators analyzed the objects, they began reconstructing the woman's movements. Not her identity, but her path. Using hotel records, train logs, and witness statements, police mapped a timeline. It revealed a pattern, precise, repetitive, and unusual. The woman arrived in Norway earlier that month. She traveled alone. She moved frequently, rarely staying in one place for more than a few days. She checked into hotels under different names. None were confirmed identities. All were false. Some names were European, others were not. None repeated consistently. Her handwriting appeared consistent across registrations, but her declared nationality changed. Sometimes Belgian, sometimes French, sometimes Czech. This inconsistency was deliberate. She paid exclusively in cash, never used credit, never left a forwarding address, never requested mail. This reduced her traceability. Witnesses described subtle changes in her appearance. Different hairstyles, different wigs, different clothing styles, sometimes elegant, sometimes understated, but always controlled. Hotel staff noted her interest in transportation, train schedules, connections, departure times. She asked detailed questions and wrote down answers. She often changed rooms, sometimes without explanation. In some cases, she requested relocation after a single night. This behavior was recorded more than once. Several witnesses recalled her walking alone, often late in the evening, sometimes carrying small bags, sometimes appearing to observe her surroundings, not sightseeing, not relaxing. In Bergen, she was seen watching people in public spaces, sitting quietly, listening, leaving without interaction. This was reported by multiple individuals. Her final days showed increased movement, more hotel changes, more train travel, less rest. The pace appeared deliberate, almost compressed. On the day before her death, she checked out of her hotel abruptly. She left behind luggage. She did not provide a destination. She was seen purchasing items, including food and alcohol. Witnesses later reported seeing her on a bus, heading toward the outskirts of the city, toward an area leading to Istelen Valley. She was alone and appeared calm. No one saw her enter the valley itself. No one saw her with companions. No one reported any disturbance. The transition from public space to isolation was unobserved. Investigators questioned whether she was followed or whether she was leading herself somewhere. The evidence supported neither conclusively. What remained clear was that her movements were not random. They followed structure, timing, and intention. The coded notes found earlier aligned with these movements. Dates matched locations. Locations matched hotel stays. The woman had documented herself, but in a language only she understood. This suggested foresight. She expected to need those records, or expected someone else might find them. By this point, the investigation had shifted again. The question was no longer who is she, but why is she moving this way? Her final journey into Istelen Valley stood apart from all others. No hotel, no return ticket, no next destination. It was the end of her documented movement and the beginning of a mystery that could not be retraced. As the pattern of movements became clear, the investigation intensified. The case was no longer treated as local. It attracted national attention, and then international interest. Norwegian authorities expanded their inquiry. Foreign embassies were contacted. Missing persons databases were reviewed. Dental records were circulated internationally. No match was found. The absence of an identity became central. No government claimed her. No family came forward. No institution recognized her. She existed only through movement and objects. Investigators began questioning whether the woman was involved in intelligence work. The Cold War context mattered. Norway occupied a strategic position, bordering the Soviet Union, hosting NATO installations. Her travel pattern intersected with sensitive locations, near military bases, naval facilities, and test sites. This was documented after the fact, but it raised concern. The coded notes were re-examined. Analysts concluded they were not random. They used a structured system, likely designed for personal use, not encryption for transmission, but for memory and concealment. Chemical analysis of items found in her luggage revealed residues. Some substances were unidentified at the time. Others were consistent with industrial compounds. This detail was not widely released. The barbiturates found in her system were traced. They were not prescribed in Norway. They had likely been obtained elsewhere. This suggested international sourcing. Questions emerged around the fire. How it started, why the body was burned partially, not completely, why nearby objects were arranged. The scene did not fully support accident, nor clear suicide. Investigators considered staging, but found no definitive signs of a third party. No foreign DNA, no confirmed struggle. The absence of evidence became evidence itself. The autopsy report left room for interpretation. The timeline of death was uncertain. The sequence of pill ingestion and carbon monoxide exposure could not be definitively ordered. This ambiguity frustrated authorities and allowed multiple theories to coexist. Suicide, accidental overdose, espionage-related death, or deliberate silencing. The case was quietly deprioritized, not officially closed, but no longer actively pursued. Files were archived, evidence was stored, and the woman remained unnamed. Years passed. Technology improved. Cold cases were revisited. The Istil woman resurfaced periodically, each time with renewed speculation, but no resolution. By the end of the formal investigation, authorities had reached an uncomfortable position. They had assembled details, but not meaning, connections, but no conclusion. The woman had moved through systems, hotels, railways, borders, and disappeared between them. Her death remained legally unexplained and culturally unsettling. A presence without origin, a conclusion without a beginning. With no definitive conclusion, the case of the Istil woman entered a different phase, one of interpretation and silence. Over time, several theories emerged, none confirmed, none dismissed entirely. The first theory suggested suicide, the presence of barbiturates, the isolated location, and the absence of witnesses supported this explanation superficially. However, the removal of clothing labels, the use of false identities, and the coded travel notes were inconsistent with spontaneous self-harm. Another theory proposed accidental death, an overdose combined with exposure. A fire started unintentionally, but this failed to explain the arrangement of objects or the intentional erasure of identity. The most persistent theory involved espionage, the Cold War context, the woman's movements, and her proximity to sensitive locations suggested intelligence activity. Her multilingual ability, use of disguises, and cash-only behavior aligned with tradecraft known at the time. Some researchers suggested she was a courier. Others believed she was an operative or a support asset. No evidence confirmed her role, but the pattern remained difficult to ignore. In later decades, new investigative techniques were applied. Isotopic analysis of her teeth suggested she had grown up in Central Europe, possibly Germany or surrounding regions. This narrowed possibilities, but did not produce a name. The data described geography, not identity. In 2017, the case was reopened publicly. Journalists, researchers, and amateur investigators revisited the files. Witnesses were re-interviewed. Old assumptions were questioned. Despite this renewed attention, no definitive answers emerged. No matching missing persons. No declassified intelligence files. No final explanation. The Ystal woman remained anonymous. Not just legally, but symbolically. She became a case study in secrecy, mobility, and intentional disappearance. Her story persists because it resists closure. There is no confession, no revelation, no final document, only fragments, hotel logs, suitcases, burned belongings, and a body in a remote valley. The case raises a quiet question, not about who she was, but whether some identities are meant to remain hidden. Today, the Ystal woman has no confirmed name, no photograph from life, no personal history. She exists only through records and unanswered questions. The investigation ended, but the mystery did not.